Students watching, boys and girls in our classroom, we're ready to begin our activity lesson. And in this activity lesson, I'm already ready for some help. I'm going to put our globe up where we can see it. And remind me again, what does our globe show, students watching? And as I'm spinning this globe, what is this globe showing me, Aslan?
Land.
Our land, and there's something else it's showing me. What else is it showing me, Emery?
Water.
That's it, it's showing me land and it's showing me water. It's showing us the entire Earth. If you were an astronaut in outer space and you look down, this is the way that our world would look. Well, I need a really sharp student who can spin my globe and who can show us where our country is. Students watching, if you're looking right now, can you see our country? Oh, they are shaking their heads no at me. Victoria, let's see if she can come up, spin that globe, and find our country. She's looking. Students watching, do you see it yet? They said no, they don't see it yet, Victoria. Oh, I'm gonna spin this toward the students watching. Victoria, they're missing something though, your smile. There we go, students watching. We can see Victoria and our country. What's the name of our country, Victoria?
The United States.
That's right, the United States of America. You can have a seat. Well, we have a neighbor to the north. What was the name of the country that is our neighbor to the north? Boys watching. And check their answer, Titus.
Canada.
Canada is it. Our neighbor to the south is what country, students watching? And check their answer for us, Ava.
Mexico.
Mexico is it. Now, our whole continent that Canada, the United States, and Mexico are a part of is called the continent of North America. Let's take just a moment and we'll look at our screen and I want you to see what North America looks like. If we come over, we can see right away, here's our country. What's the name of our country, Kobe?
United States of America.
That's it, the United States of America. Our neighbor to the north is called again, what country? Trey, what's our neighbor to the north called?
South America.
Oh, that would be the continent that's to the south. The country that's to the north is called
Canada.
There you go, it's Canada. And girls watching, what is our neighbor to the south called? And what is the name of our neighbor to the south, Tanner?
Mexico.
Mexico is it, and this makes the continent of North America. Now, Trey pointed out to us the continent that's right below us, and it's the continent of South America. Let's take a moment and look at this compass rose that's in the corner. Our compass rose, remember, reminds us of those directions. Everyone stand up. Let's start with north, and we'll show our directions together. North, south, east, west. Let's do that again. North, south, east, west. Good job. You can have a seat and let's notice some more things that are on our map. Now, if we look right here, we can see our country, the United States of America, in green. But if we began to travel up in our neighbor country to the north, the country of Canada, do you see that this is also green? This is also a part of our country, and it is a state called Alaska. Now, if we want to travel to Alaska, we can take a road to get there. And in just a little bit, we're going to see a picture of this road. It's a very long road. It would take you a long time to travel from the United States of America to Alaska, also a part of our country, by traveling in a car. But notice what's over here, and remind me of what this ocean is called, boys watching. And what is this ocean called? Titus. It's our largest ocean. The
Pacific Ocean.
That's it. Boys watching, did you get it? It's called the Pacific Ocean. Look over here. There's another state we're going to get to travel to in this lesson. It's called the state of Hawaii. Now look carefully at Hawaii. Do you see it looks like almost little dots on my map? It's because Hawaii is something very special. It is made up of many islands. Here's what an island is. An island is a piece of land that is completely surrounded by water. And we could kind of relate to that in our classroom. I'm going to walk over to Emery's table. If Emery were in the middle of the water, we would say that really Emery is an island. Look what I can do. I can walk all the way around Emery's space. He's by himself. He's not connected to anyone else or anyone's chair. I'm going around Emery, and Emery is an island right inside of our classroom. Just like Hayden is an island or Trey is an island. Students watching, maybe you're not connected to anything else with your workstation and you're an island. Nothing is connecting you, completely surrounded. So an island is completely surrounded by water. Now, before we travel to Hawaii, let's take a little bit of time and let's travel up to the state of Alaska. As we travel to Alaska, there's somebody I'd like you to meet. His name is Otto, and Otto lives in that state of Alaska. Now, let's look for just a little bit and think. Do you think Alaska is a warm place to live or cold place, students watching? And what do you think? Hayden, is it warm or is it cold?
Cold.
And we can tell not only by the way that Otto is dressed, but remember, Alaska was up in the north. And remember, the farther north you go, the colder it's going to be. Some things that Otto has, I like. There's his sled dog. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. And then you can see some of the beautiful scenery there in the state of Alaska. Now, we're going to say that Otto lives with his grandfather there in Alaska, and Alaska was the 49th state that became a part of our country. Do you remember how many states are in our whole country, students watching? That's kind of a hard question. Ava, do you remember? I'll give you a clue. It's one more than 49, so it's 49 plus 1.
50.
There's 50 states in our country, and Alaska was the 49th state. Now, right here is the road I was talking about that you could travel on from the United States, travel up through Canada to get through Alaska. This is called the Alaskan Highway, and it takes you 23 hours, almost an entire day of driving to get up to the state of Alaska. Now, if we look on our map, we can see the state of Alaska, and look carefully. Here's where the mainland, most of our United States is. Travel through Canada, and there is Alaska. The name Alaska actually means great land, and it is a big, great land. It's cold in Alaska, but a lot of people still live there. Now, Otto is something called an Inuit. He is a Native American that lives up there in that cold north. And the Inuit people do something. They make clothes from animal skins of like polar bears and seals. And the coat that he's wearing is a special type of coat called a parka. Something is on the inside of that parka. Can you see what is on the inside of his parka, Kobe? Something that's going to keep him warm.
Fur.
Yes, and that fur is going to keep them nice and warm. Now, he has a very special house that he might live in during the winter time. Do you know what that's called? It's called an igloo. And an igloo is just another name for an ice house or a house made out of ice blocks. Now, today, those who live in Alaska, they're not going to use sled dogs like they used to use to get around. Instead, they'll use something like this called a snowmobile. And it's kind of like a car that travels quickly on top of the snow. Now, they used to use those dog sleds, and sometimes they still do. We'll talk about an important sled dog race they have in Alaska. But there you can see those sled dogs doing their job. Oh, it's so important for the sled dogs to do something. They have to follow the voice of their master right away. It's important that they follow directions. You know, in our classroom and in your homes, do you follow directions right away? God asks us to obey the first time, and that's what a sled dog does. A sled dog is trained to obey right away. There's another picture of some sled dogs, and this is a sled dog race. Now, why do you think that the man who is behind the sled dog is wearing all of those clothes, Hayden? How does it feel outside?
Really cool.
It's cold, and he wants to stay nice and warm. This right here is a picture of a special race they have in Alaska called the Iditarod race. It is over 1,150 miles long, and it can take the sled dog team and their owners between 9 and 13 days to finish. So it's a big race and it takes a long time, but it's a fun thing to get to watch. Here we can see some people building an igloo. What is an igloo made of, Aria?
Ice.
Ice blocks, ice and snow, you're correct. And there might be what it looks like inside of an igloo. Can you tell what's on top of this ice here? What do you think that is, Benjamin?
Stove.
Well, not a stove, it's actually some blankets and furs. Why do you think they have blankets and furs inside of there, Benjamin? What is
Keep it warm.
That's right, to stay warm because it's so very cold. Ah, you might see this if you visit the state of Alaska. What might you see, Tanner?
Polar bear.
A polar bear is right. And also this guy. What is this, Emery?
Buffalo.
Really close. It's called a moose. What is it?
Moose.
A moose. A moose would live there in the state of Alaska. Something else you might see, go watching for this on a boat, Victoria.
A whale.
A whale can be seen in Alaska. This one is one of my favorites. Students watching, what animal do you see here? And what type of animal is this, Arya?
A seal.
A very cute seal you could see. These guys live in Alaska. Do you know what type of animal this is, Ava?
A bear.
It is. Those are grizzly bear cubs. And here is one of my favorite birds. What bird is this, Trey?
An eagle.
That is a bald eagle, and you can see those in the state of Alaska. Now, this is a picture of what Alaska looks like, and this is a special park called Denali National Park. This is a river that just goes right through it, and it's a park that you can visit if you visit the state of Alaska. Now, Alaska is special because it has really long nights and really short days during the winter time. But during the summertime, it's the opposite. They have really long days and really short nights. It's because they're almost at the very top of our Earth. This is a special picture of a railroad. The Alaska Railroad Denali Star goes through that national park, the Denali Park. And right here you can see a beautiful mountain. It's called Denali. You might have heard it as Mount McKinley, but it's right there in that Denali National Park. It means the high one. It's the highest mountain that you can find on our continent, the continent of North America. Now this is just beautiful. Can you see those special lights in the sky? This is something that you could see if you ever visit the state of Alaska. It's called the Aurora Borealis. And you can sometimes see this in the winter sky because of those really long nights that they have there. There's another picture. Sometimes it might be called the Northern Lights. So the Northern Lights, or the Aurora Borealis, you can sometimes see in the winter night sky. Let's look at our next place we're going to visit. Now, if we look right over here, we can see the state we've been visiting, which is the state of Alaska. Remember, we said you could travel up to Alaska if you got onto that road and go through the country of Canada. But over here is our next state to visit, and this state is a state I would love to visit. Maybe some of our students watching live there. It's the island states of Hawaii. Let's take it just a moment and let's look at both of those states on our globe so we can see where they're found. So if we look right here again, here's our country, the mainland, or most of the United States is found right here. Here's our neighbor country to the north, and we would travel up through Canada to make it to the state of Alaska. But to be able to get to the state of Hawaii, we'd have to do something. We would either have to get onto a boat or get on an airplane because Hawaii is found right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Now, Hawaii is completely surrounded with water. What do we call land that is completely surrounded with water, students watching? And what is that called, Ava?
An island.
It is an island, and Hawaii is actually made up of many islands. Now, if we look at this picture, getting us started and ready for Hawaii, we can see someone whose name is Lana, and Lana lives in the state of Hawaii. Beautiful beaches in Hawaii. Remember, an island means there's going to be a lot of water around them because they're islands surrounded by water. Here's a volcano we're going to get to see, and also some really pretty flowers. Hawaii is a warm place, so tropical flowers grow there. Now, if we look from Alaska to Hawaii, we could start all the way up here at Denali National Park. We would travel across the Pacific Ocean, and then we would make it to Hawaii. And again, notice those islands. Hawaii is more than one island. It's many islands to make this one state. Now, Hawaii is actually 132 islands, and you can see just a quick picture of how beautiful Hawaii is. Hawaii is the 50th state. So Alaska was the 49th state to be a part of our country, and Hawaii was the 50th state. Now, if you visit Hawaii, there is something that you're going to get right away. Maybe right after you get off the plane or right after you get off the bus. Something might be placed around your neck, and I have an example of one right here. This is called a lei, and it's just a necklace made out of flowers. These flowers aren't real, but sometimes they'll take a lei and take real flowers and make that necklace. And then you'll hear something else when you get off your plane or off your boat. You'll hear the word aloha. Aloha can mean either hello or goodbye, but since we're just coming on, we'll say aloha, hello for this. Now there's another picture of those beautiful leis, those flower necklaces that you can get when you come to the state of Hawaii. This is one of the busiest beaches in Hawaii. It's called Waikiki Beach. And at Waikiki Beach, you can do swimming or you can surf. So lots of fun things to do. There's some surfboards that you might use if you visit Waikiki Beach. Now, when I think of Hawaii, I think of this plant. Do you know what type of plant this is, students watching? And I think Victoria saw right away. What is this? It's pineapple. What is this, Victoria?
Pineapple.
Yes, and if you look carefully, you can kind of see the pineapple there. I love to eat pineapple, and a lot of our pineapple comes from the state of Hawaii. Now, this one is another one of my favorites. You might not recognize this plant. This plant is sugar cane. What do you think we get from sugar cane, girls watching? And what do you think we get from sugar cane? Aslan?
Sugar.
We do. We get lots of sugar from sugar cane, and I know we like to have sugar to sweeten up our food. Now right here, you can see some of that sugar cane cut open, and then right there is a special type of juice called sugar cane juice. How do you think sugar cane juice might taste? Hayden, sour or sweet?
Sweet.
Really sweet is the way that it tastes. Now you might not know what this is, but Mom and Dad probably do. This is the fruit that coffee beans come from. It's called coffee cherries. If your moms and dads like to drink coffee, give me a smile. Well, a lot of the coffee is grown in Hawaii. Maybe next time they drink, you should ask them to see if their coffee came from the state of Hawaii. It's the only state in the United States that does grow coffee. Now, this is a special mountain called Diamond Head, and it's a very special mountain because it is a volcano. And a volcano is a type of mountain that actually has hot, melted rock on the inside of it. Hawaii was formed by volcanoes, and these volcanoes, they spit out hot lava and burning rocks. Now, this is a picture of Mauna Loa. It's the world's largest volcano, and it is very high. This is a special memorial. It's called the Pearl Harbor Memorial, and it's those to remember who were brave during World War II. There you can see some of the boats around there for that Pearl Harbor Memorial, and this is a remembrance of many people who were brave to keep our country safe. This is a picture of a place called the USS Missouri. It's a place you can visit in Hawaii and see where peace was signed. This is a picture of that USS Missouri today. Now, sometimes if you go to Hawaii, they have something special called an upside-down waterfall. Days that the winds blow really hard, the waterfalls actually are blown backward because the wind is so strong. So if you ever visit Hawaii on a windy day, you can see waterfalls going backward. Now, this last picture shows something that I brought with me as well. And it shows a picture of a ukulele. Maybe you've seen one of those from Hawaii. And a ukulele makes music. And you can hear some pretty Hawaiian music using that ukulele. Now, I'm going to say the word mahalo, or goodbye, for those who visited in Hawaii with us. But before we say goodbye, let's see if we can remember some things about Alaska and Hawaii. Here's my first question. What state is the largest state in America? What do you think it is, students watching? And what is the largest state, Ava?
Alaska.
There we go. If we look at our map, Alaska is so very big, isn't it? The Iditarod is a race that uses what? Trey, what do we see racing in the Iditarod?
Dog.
Yes, it uses a lot of dogs. What is a house made of ice called, Emery? An igloo is right. An igloo is a house made of ice. Students watching, what is the name of a little car that travels on top of snow called? Do you remember? And Aslan, what is it called?
Snowmobile.
That's right, a snowmobile. Now, how come you can see Aurora Borealis in Alaska? What is really long so that you can see it? Hayden, is it a long day or is it a long night?
Sometimes it's a long night.
It is, it's a long night, so it will happen during a winter time. Now, if you lived in, let's say, the state of Florida, what direction would you need to travel to get to Alaska, students watching? And where would you need to travel, Ava?
West.
Yes, you would travel west and also north. Good job at noticing those directions. What ocean is Hawaii located in? Help us out with that, Titus. Remember that big ocean.
The Pacific Ocean.
You're right. Students watching, thanks for joining us on our trips to Alaska and Hawaii.